a foreigner of sorts, but he cares more about Americans' well-being than most of its politicians here in this country. And so we're always proud to have him on our show. What do you think the long-term effect, Mark, is of having politicians, people who are like holding elected office, saying things that are so over the top and so designed to terrify people, and no one calls them on it? What do you think long-term is going to happen if that continues?
Yeah, well, just to go back to me being a foreigner, Tucker, I'm a legal immigrant, which means I'm a non-dreamer, which means nobody sentimentalizes me. I listened to that rhapsody that Michael was doing about these people taking their children on a brave journey, struggling across to give them a better. Nobody ever says that about me and my kids. We're the non-dreamers. Because we did the boring thing and filled in the paperwork. And what that does, that kind of language, is it actually prevents politics. Politics is about public policy. When you first sentimentalize it, and then you take it to the next stage, as Keith Ellison does, where if you disagree on a rather boring public policy point, you're a Nazi. If you take it to the level that these other Democrats do, where we've just heard someone explain that there are Klansmen now in the cabinet. This is absurd. And also, it's decadent. During the Bush years, college professors in liberal latte towns drove around with bumper stickers saying, "Bush scares me." And then they parked the car that says, "Bush scares me," and they got out at the little college espresso house and they had a soy macchiato and watched the world go by. Nobody in Saddam Hussein's Iraq was driving around with a bumper sticker saying, "Saddam scares me." This is a form of decadence that is actually insulting to people who live in uncivilized societies.
It's the banality of symbolic protest by our privileged class, for sure. So there was an interesting moment, I thought, on the Ellen show. Haven't watched a lot of Ellen, but she was asked, essentially, would you have Donald Trump on your show? And here's what she said.
Would you have him on your show?
Definitely. I mean, I would not say no to the sitting president of the United States.
Really?
Absolutely not. Would you?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah. I can't have someone that I feel is not only dangerous for the country and for me personally as a gay woman, but as to the world.
I guess what got me about this, look, she doesn't have to like Trump, I get it, but the idea that going on her show would make him the real president for the first time ever, and that she fears that suggests a kind of megalomania that, like, I guess is normal there.
Yeah, and for a start, the investment in this narrative is absurd. Trump is no threat to her, quote, as a gay woman, unquote.
Oh, that's true.
He's lived in New York all his life. He doesn't care about gays. He comes out of Trump Tower and they're crawling all over the town. He's happy to let Caitlyn Jenner use whatever bathroom in Trump Tower tickles her fancy. He doesn't care about any of that. And we know that. He's not like, you know, some uptight redneck Southern congressman from the 1960s. But what this does is it makes politics impossible, because it says this isn't a boring, stable society of representative self-government where the pendulum swings every 4 years and your guy wins or your guy loses, and next time round you find a better candidate than the last atrocious candidate, and this time you're back in. It's saying that we are actually in revolutionary conditions, and that's a really dangerous path to go down.
Where does that end?
Well, I think it ends by becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. Keith Ellison, if he seriously believes, I mean, for a start, he's not serious. When he says that the DACA dreamers are the equivalent of Jews in Nazi Germany, he's not meaning they should move in with him. Nancy Pelosi, who seemed to be getting on with all those dreamers shouting her down the other day, Nancy has a pretty big spread out in San Francisco. If they want to move in with her, that's a compromise we can all agree on. But actually, housing a Jewish family in your attic I was talking to a guy in Hungary. This was a dangerous thing to do. He was taken in by he was a Jewish boy taken in at the end of the Second World War. And that family saved his life because at that time the regime in Budapest was running out of bullets. So they tied the Jews together, stood them in the Danube, shot the one at the left end, the one at the right end, and everyone in between sank with them and drowned. And it's disgusting to people who know the difference between real totalitarianism and this sort of showbiz pose. This Bush scares me, Trump scares me. John Kasich would scare them. Jeb Bush would scare them. This is decadence. You know, Lindsey Graham would scare them. Susan Collins would scare them. It's fake and it's rubbish, and they should be ashamed of appropriating a real fascist experience in order to get their jollies from it.
Yeah.
Go back to your soy macchiato and your bumper stickers.
To be fair, John Kasich does scare me a little bit, but I get it. Mark, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure, Tucker.
Thank you. Hurricane Maria slammed